Joe, what is the difference between being horny and being hungry?
I don't know, Louie.
Where you put the cucumber? So guy goes into a convenience store, buys a box of condoms, and as he's ringing it up, the cashier says, "Do you want a bag with that?" He says, "No, she's pretty good looking." Hey, welcome to Carnival Personnel. I'm Jacques.
I'm eating.
And there's a lot more where that came from.
Oh, no.
Joe, how are you? You seem up today.
I'm not up at all. No.
Is this just a
This is
mask?
me overcompensating.
Okay.
Yes. It's kind of like when you call a fat guy tiny, you call me happy. Smiles. That's what they call me.
And the
Smiling Joe.
I'm writing that down so I don't forget that.
Please.
One.
Every episode I say don't forget. Because of you. I learned it by listening to you.
You're welcome. So right at the top, a decent week for me as far as like the fat shaming goes, because I got to work out one time.
Great.
You know, I busy week dealing with the little guy's different therapies since being released. But I did go skating. That is the most important thing. Yeah. So I'm still a big fat piece of crap. But
Well, at least you're rewarding yourself with nachos and dip and chocolate.
no soda though. Still on the no soda kick.
I'll have a Diet Coke. I get it. I'll have the triple cheeseburger. Oh, wait, no, you won't have the triple cheeseburger. I'll have 3 pizzas.
I'm into fitness. Fitness whole pizza
in my mouth.
So we got that. So hey, enjoyable sideshow this past Thursday that was posted up on the interwebs by the fine folks, you at Carnival Personnel.
And you.
And our friend John. Interesting, informative, quite delightful. I couldn't get enough.
I'm glad to hear that you can't get enough, because there's more to come.
What?
That's right. This week, this Thursday, tune in for part 2 of Carnival Sideshow Blackjack.
With an actual qualified person to be talking about said subject. So.
Yeah, I know. We basically dance around who he really is. We always leave last names out on our podcast because we don't want the feds to find out that we take music and unlicensed music and put it up on the internet with our we do that. Yeah, we don't pay.
Dan Cray at dancray.net could sue us for.
You know how much it would cost to purchase the Vegas theme song? Vegas with a $sign 70s theme song.
That was an awesome show.
Yeah, starring quick
Robert.
You lose. You just lose.
Who is it?
Oh, we're taking too long to say his name.
Is it Robert Wagner?
Robert Urich.
Urich, that's it.
You still lose.
And I still shoot you.
Good day, sir.
What?
You get nothing.
You think I would remember that name, having been married to somebody named Urich for 3.5 years, which was the 2 best years of my life. So that was good. No, but it was great having John here. Again, our friend John was ringleader of the 1980s famed, MIT blackjack.
Was he a ringleader? Was he eventually promoted to ringleader?
Well, I mean, if you see the documentary, he was essentially the guy
recruiting.
They had focused it on, and stuff like that. If he wasn't their biggest winner, like, in dollars and stuff like that. But I think the longevity from, being a player into phasing into being a recruiter and investor in the thing and stuff like that. But anyways.
Speaking of big winners.
Yes, nice segue.
You noticed the segue behind me.
They
bought it with that defunct sponsor money.
That my sweet money.
I think Segway is going to be a defunct sponsor someday, right? It's got to be. Who the fuck rides Segways besides mall cops? And because malls are going away. If malls go away, the Segways go away. And then what do we have? Walking? I don't think so.
No.
Self-driving cars.
Sooner than later.
We need self-running people. That's what we need.
Every day we get a little closer to that as we die inside. No, stop sidebar. Oh, great. Because that's the funny thing. It's like they've already taped the whole season. So this guy who's on this, it's a historic run. I mean, not in the sheer numbers yet, but he's getting there. And he's on pace to break the total. Is he still going? As of, as of the taping of this show?
Yes, he's still there. I think he's on day I guess if we're taping on Friday, but it hasn't aired yet. So if he wins today, it'll be day 17, I think, or 16.
And the all-time champion who had like 2.1 million, 2.2 million, something like that.
Ken Jennings.
How long did it take him? It took him like
46 days or 49 days.
And so this dude is on pace to do it like next week, like in like a day or two less than the halfway point to do it, because he's just, and I was reading this on, a sports person was, that I follow on Twitter had basically said he's playing Jeopardy like we all at home wish we could play Jeopardy, not just knowing things, but just the
strategy in which he starts with the larger sums first, because if you know anything about Jeopardy, which you don't, the first row never has a daily double, never. So as you increase in dollar amounts, that's when you're more likely to hit the daily doubles. So the combination of knowing pretty much every answer, knowing how to buzz in, being cool, and that's what comes with being a pro gambler. He's just a cool player. He doesn't get frazzled, and he's not afraid to wager big amounts. And then when you're playing from the bottom up, you're earning that money, that big money right up front. So by the time you actually find the daily double, if you're gutsy enough, and usually the answers to the daily double questions are in the mid-range of the difficulty. So if you're knowledgeable enough, you have a really good chance of actually getting the daily double question right.
And you have less pressure because you don't have to worry about buzzing in first. And if you're like really not sure, but you want to make sure that you buzz in before the other people do, I mean, and it doesn't sound like much, but I equate it to like baseball, where when they talk about, this dude's fastball, has lost a little velocity. And like last year he was throwing at 98, and right now he's throwing at 94, and you're like, I still couldn't hit it if my life depended. But in that world, that's a big deal. So here, that extra half a second to think about the answer and like you said, be composed, is why he's killing it.
Yep, and when you knock off those large amounts right off the bat, and eventually you hit the daily double, if you put a bet and bet it all and lose and get back down to zero, the other people that he's playing against don't exactly have thousands of dollars amassed by the time he gets that. So he's not like the risk reward is heavily in his favor. So, and I think I read on Twitter that the highest prior to him, this guy, James Holzhauer, or Haushauer? Oh, shit, I've already forgot. I think it's Holzhauer. Prior to his winnings, the highest single-day record was 77,000. His average is just below 77,000. His daily average of winning. So he's a monster. And, he'll be, and then they have the Tournament of Champions.
Right.
I mean, it's just going to be, it's really fun, and I hope Alex is here to enjoy it with us next season.
I don't think he's going to welsh on his contract.
No, he's a man of his word, and a class act all the way. So, and does it get you watching it? Even
it's usually on at the house. Okay. No, it's on at the house all the time. And as we talked about, I always feel really good when I know the one answer just before. And just recently, I thought we talked about it. I'm sorry if we didn't. It was very much a Cliff Clavin moment where, like, the categories one night were like, Marvel supervillains,
Yeah.
It was like 3 categories where I'm like, I really felt like Cliff Clavin because they were all up, like, my nerdism?
What?
I'm trying to think of the right way. They were up my alley, but in a nerd kind of.
Oh, they're up your nerd alley?
Nerd alley.
They were in your nerd house?
And honestly, I'm like, let's never watch Jeopardy again. I will never answer that many questions before those people ever.
Yeah.
But no, it's fun. Management knows. And it's also an interesting thing when you find out, like, how do I know that? Have you ever had those moments where it asks a question about, like, you know, the Roman Empire, and it's like, and it's not Caesar, and you're like, I didn't even know I knew another Roman Empire, but somehow in the back of your mind it like came kicking through the cranium. That's
sort of the magic of the writing of the answers on the show, is that they take basic general knowledge facts that pretty much everybody knows, but then they frame it around an obscure fact about that fact. Like, you know who Julius Caesar is, but did you know that, you know, he had a mole on his left butt cheek? No, you didn't until now.
So it really is a fun show. And at the same time, on the opposite, you know, side of the coin, when you feel really good when you know a question now and then, but it really makes you understand how stupid you are when you can't even it's just the most basic thing where you know if you were standing at the podium you get your name wrong.
That's why I will not try out for Jeopardy. So when you're not watching TV at home and trying to beat the winningest Jeopardy champion from your couch, what else are you watching?
Movies.
Yeah?
Big week for movies.
At the movie theater?
At the movie theater. Shazam.
Wow. Hey, big spender. Spend some money on DC.
Yeah, pretty much. You're not going to see Shazam until it comes out on Apple TV.
Or something like that, yeah. I mean, it's
not a must-see in the movies.
No.
I liked it.
I might go see Joker.
I'm looking forward to that. See Joker.
But Shazam, not that I'm against it. It's just not something, like, I have to really be judicious with my money.
Is that your Bill Cosby?
No, that's Dana Carvey. Like, he had this routine for, like, back in the 90s where he would say, like, somebody tried to say the word judicial system without sounding drunk. This is the problem of the judicial system.
You sound like Bill Cosby, and I don't know if that
could be taken. I think that's a hate crime now. To say that.
Did Dana Carvey sound like Bill Cosby when he said it?
He did.
Okay,
and he looked like him. It was weird.
Nice. Raping somebody who was unconscious at the time. 3, 4. Wow, that's a pretty good Super Dave stare down you got going.
I can only make it last 1 second.
No,
that's what she said, or he said to her. I don't know.
You've given me that scornful look more than that. No, so I like Shazam. I liked it a lot. It's not. I didn't come like busting in here saying, you know, drop what you're doing. It's fun. You know, it's in the current DC cinematic universe. But the current DC cinematic universe doesn't really exist because they've lost Superman, they've lost Batman. The new Wonder Woman movie or the next Wonder Woman movie is in the works, but it's like, they're not sure they're doing a Flash movie. It's on again and off again. It seems like it's off again, which is a bummer. Like I said, they lost Superman, they lost Batman. So they brought Shazam into this. At the same time, they lost the Suicide Squad, but maybe they didn't, and maybe
I thought they were making another Suicide Squad.
Yes, but it's a reboot
but it still has Harley Quinn and Margot Robbie.
Originally, she wasn't, and now they're basic. And again, it's one of those things where it costs like 150, 175, and it made 800,000. But where the last 3 Marvel movies cleared $1 billion. Only quadrupling the money is not good enough, and that's a failure, and the critics didn't like it, and the fans didn't love it enough to go 6 times. He only went 5 times. But
you're also just talking about box office. I mean, box office is a substantial portion of the income, but then you have to think about long term. Like, did it have legs outside of the theater?
Well, you know, it's I don't know how, because I haven't found a place that like really lets you know what the streaming numbers are and what the Redbox numbers are.
Right, they usually hold those numbers close to their best.
Like you can go to Box Office Mojo, and if a movie comes out on Thursday night, they have the take by Friday morning. and it's easier to it's just as easy to calculate those as a red box or anything else. It's all in the digital age, but they don't release those numbers, and I don't know if it's hiding the accounting, so all the residuals you have to pay out.
Yeah, right. Basically, if people are saying, like, if their numbers are based on the gross and the studio says, well, we only made about, $100 million when they really made $500 million.
Well, you've heard, like, Kevin Smith and other people lament this for years. It's no movie in the history of Hollywood has ever made money.
Yeah, right.
And that's why Kevin Smith stopped working on huge movies. I mean, he worked on huge movies, not just him. I mean, Mallrat was at the time, a pretty big production for that kind of movie. But he also worked on a Die Hard and other huge movies. And he would work on a movie that cost $100 million. He'd be like a writer or consultant, and he'd have a residual thing, and you would see the box office numbers and then get no residual checks. And then you do forensic auditing, and they'd be like, well, the bus advertisements really, did a number of, and it's true. And
who knew there were that many buses in New York?
And he said it's why he ended up. Titus does this as well. Titus could make be a bigger actor and
yeah, but Titus also has some other issues to deal with.
He has lots of other issues, but I mean, they'll go out and they'll make a $2, $3, $4 million movie, and they'll make more money off a $4 million movie that makes $10 million than they will off a $100 million movie that makes $200 million, $300 million.
Speaking of Titus movies, we don't really talk about Christopher Titus's podcast too much, but his movie Special Unit is on Amazon Prime. Check it out.
Have you seen it?
I actually downloaded it off of Apple when it was behind a paywall, and it's a good, funny movie. Like, I enjoyed it. It's like there's a bit of wrongness to it, but it's not mean-spirited. It's really well done.
Well, from what I understand, I don't listen to podcasts that much anymore, but there's a lot of handy, capable people.
Right. And that's the special unit. Get it?
Right.
Yeah, it's a ragtag group of people who want to join the police force, but they just don't cut the mustard when it comes to the physical tests that they have to go through.
Like they're missing a leg, or they're missing an arm, or they voted for Trump.
Yes, absolutely. So he's he's sort of been like. I guess he plays like a detective or a sergeant who's like been demoted, quote unquote, or relegated to, lead this group. He's been assigned to this group, and then of course it turns out to be fine. And it's a nice movie. Check it out. I liked it, and you will too.
But I did like Shazam.
Great.
I like Zachary Levi, as we talked. I think he's my favorite actor of like the last 5-10 years.
Ryan Reynolds can go kick.
Right, yeah. Ryan Reynolds, Robert Downey Jr., like the Avenger people, but he's done more different roles that I've really liked over, like in the recent past, But he's great in everything. Yeah. Like I've seen him. Again, he was like very small part of Thor's world.
We went over this last week.
Right, so I like him. Shazam was fun, campy, and it's not like any other DC movie. It's not like dark and gritty, and there's a couple dark moments, but it's also light, and and the comic and different iterations. Billy Batson, the secret identity is like 10 to 12, and here they have him 14, but he's still an immature 14-year-old kid who.
I mean, well, today's 14 was yesteryear's 10.
Right.
Like kids are becoming less mature or taking longer to mature, so it kind of fits.
Because of our coddling.
That's it.
Snowflake.
Right. Here's your fucking trophy of the day.
So it's fun. It's well worth your time to watch it when it comes out on Apple TV.
And well worth your money.
I'm legally obligated, I think, to buy every DC and Marvel and Star Trek and Star Wars movie that comes out.
Yet you don't subscribe to CBS All Access so you can watch Star Trek Discovery. Oh, that's a TV show. That doesn't count.
Yeah. No, okay. It doesn't.
All right.
But yeah, so Shazam was fun,
Right.
But then
so that pretty much capped your movie-going experience this week. That was it.
No, actually.
What?
Sadly, I did not get to have you join, as I did see Endgame. And I don't know If you saw, yes, you did because you liked.
You mean Avengers Endgame?
Avengers Endgame. When I had tweeted out, it's like, man, I really wish I went to the 22-hour or the 22 movie 58-hour marathon. But then the actual day of seeing Endgame, I'm like, yeah, I better squeeze in a hour nap here because this is 3.5 hours long.
Yeah.
The
dichotomy of it all.
Did not drink any liquids after noon, knowing because I usually go to the bathroom.
It's like how you prepare for like an MRI.
2 or 3. Well, I go to the bathroom 2 or 3 times during a movie, and I really didn't want to. And it's funny because the next day when I was like, wanted to see like, box offers or see stuff online that I've been trying not to, like one of the first things that came up in Google searches is best time to go pee during.
I saw that. Yeah. There was like tips on when to go pee during Endgame. But that's
won't talk anything about it till you see it. But
don't spoil the Endgame.
It's
the greatest movie ever made.
No, but it's,
fuck you, Citizen Kane.
But I just told you about it. It's probably gone by the time we put this out there, and everybody who would have known it Googling Thanos.
Oh, right. They might kick. Do you think it's only for opening day?
Oh, maybe opening weekend. So maybe it's kicking.
Yeah, try Google. Try it now. Try Googling Thanos on Google.
And then when Thanos comes up, you can see a picture of the gauntlet next to his name. Click on the gauntlet.
Right.
Good times.
Temporary layoffs
for all. Now see, even when I don't want to sing the
you're
thing,
singing it in your head. Yeah, your head's singing it.
Oh, so if I put my ear close enough to it. All right, let's get into the other crappy stuff. Well, not crappy. Crazy Uncle Joe is now officially thrown his hat into the ring for the presidency of these United States.
Joe Biden, yes, officially announced that he is going to be the next president of the United States. Hand to God. Sorry, God.
Your thoughts?
I think he's as good a candidate as any, as far as like he's definitely top 5. I mean, there's 20 candidates right now. You got Elizabeth Warren. You have Mayor Pete, who kind of, he's up and down.
He's rising.
He's up in there. Okay. You got Bernie. Beto is kind of meh. Kamala Harris is kind of dropping the ball. She's not raising a lot of money. Although, speaking of money, apparently Joe Biden has like broken the record in like day one fundraising. I mean, he was the vice president of the United States for 8 years under Obama. I mean, he's the Make America Great Again to Democrats, to a lot of Democrats. But again, and I was actually texting with Jim about this, how he said to me on text, am I more excited about Joe Biden than you are? And I don't know what he meant by that, but I don't know, maybe he just liked the idea of Joe Biden running and maybe the entertaining things that might be coming out of this campaign where he'd last until the primaries. But I said, well, he's likable. He's got decades of experience. He's a known commodity. He's an old white guy. So those are both traits that will be in his favor and can be used against him.
Well, the money raising thing is huge. I mean, and at the end of the day, so anybody like, the mayor or Beta who really can, on a national level, Beto really pull in the money that you need to put together a campaign like this. I mean, you need the machinery and mechanism. He did really well in Texas, and great for him and all of that. But outside of Texas, can he, raise the big money and stuff? And that's the thing. Joe Biden's been an elected official. He's also, the visibility, his likability and the swing states, because he himself is, he's not from New York or California. I mean, it's like Pennsylvania isn't. I mean, yeah, it's a northeast city, but it doesn't have the same kind of negative, stigma. Like Scranton doesn't have the same kind of negative imagery in the Midwesterners that a Boston, a New York, a California, does. Who do you think the fine people at Dunder Mifflin will be throwing their support behind?
I'm trying to get the reference. I know Dunder Mifflin is The Office
in Scranton.
Oh, Scranton.
They're based.
Scranton, PA. Yeah.
Right. So that's where Michael and Jim and we're rewatching it, so that's why it's so fresh on my mind.
Right. I have to. I've watched several, like a lot of episodes. Well, I wouldn't say a lot. A bunch of episodes of The Office, but that's my next stop. I think after Cheers, and then maybe after Frasier, get back into the American Office.
No, Frasier, you can just
no. Why? Frasier's like a really good show.
Okay,
I don't know. That's what I've been heard. It lasted. I think longer, right?
It lasted a long time, right?
Yeah.
No, it was fine.
Yeah. I mean, it's not for you,
when it was on, but I mean, The Office, when management and I.
Oh, The Office is great.
It was one of our first shows that we watched together. The Office romance between Jim and Pam was great.
Yeah.
One of my favorite TV couples forever.
I had a huge crush, and maybe still do, on what's her name, Jenna something or other.
Pam. Her name is Pam.
Pam, right. But see her in Blades of Glory.
And I forgot completely how much I fucking hated Idris Elba, who was
Idris Elba.
Idris Elba. Fucking hated.
I didn't know that he was on The Office.
He did it like a half a season.
Oh.
Fucking hated him. And it's funny because I hated him, and then he went on to do one of my favorite movies, Pacific Rim, and then he becomes Hemdall and
Luther and
Hemdall on and Thor and the Avengers movies. He did something else that I really loved him in. And now that we're rewatching it, it's like, oh, that's right. I used to hate this fucking guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but no, it's fun. And it's also fun because you forget. It's like the show did. Now I'm trying to like Ed Helms. Ed Helms was
Mindy Kaling and
19th banana on that show. Like
right.
Jim, spoiler alert, 10 years ago, whatever. But Jim ended up getting transferred to another office, and it would cut back and forth. And he was at that office. You know what I mean? That's where he was. And then they merged the office, and he came. And like I said,
the characters in that. You had Craig Robinson, and you got. And then there's like the. If I had watched that show more, I'd know who, like, the guy that talks like this. You know that guy, the fat guy there, the fat white guy. What's his name? What's his character's name?
No, not
Andy. You know what I'm talking about.
I do.
Yeah.
And then it's funny because, like, an ER person mistook him for being mentally challenged. And at the time, they didn't use the word mentally challenged way back then, which is weird to hear on a network show.
I know. That's there was a window there.
Yeah, it was.
There really was like a window.
That's that. When they say "Make America Great," it's so we could go back to a time when you could say that word just openly on a network show.
But all in good fun, man.
No.
All right.
So
I'm glad
about Joe Biden.
I think we spoke more about The Office than Joe Biden. That's how. It's Joe Biden. It's like, what else is there to talk about? Like,
it was the longest sitting on the fence. Maybe he's going to run 6 months. It's been.
No, I think I think my record of maybe going to run is longer.
A little longer. Run away from this podcast, you mean?
Oh, you're counting down the moments. What are we on? 90? This is 98? I forget. We're almost at 100, baby. What are we doing for our 100th besides getting canceled by me?
I was going to say.
Thanos. I'll be the Thanos of this podcast.
Snap your finger.
Right, and then I'm going to disappear. And you'll be here.
You might. you might. But I...
I'm going to bury me in my own basement.
I'm interested in finding your thoughts about Bernie going on Fox last week.
Didn't even know about it. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
He went on Fox.
Yeah, he went on like a town hall on Fox.
They wouldn't have. Well, he went on CNN, right? He had the CNN town hall.
Right. But he went on Fox, and he did well. And what's really, because don't forget, a lot of Bernie bros, went to Trump.
Yeah.
And a lot of people on this side or our side of the fence, or as I should call the correct side of history.
The painted side of the fence.
Thank you. Huck Finn.
Tom Sawyer, yeah.
It wasn't Huck Finn who actually had to paint the fence. It was a Tom Sawyer.
Tom Sawyer got everybody else to paint the fence.
It was Tom Sawyer. I thought it was Huck Finn who
Thompson was supposed to paint the fence, and he was conning others to paint the fence.
So Bernie's on Fox. And at the
Fox News.
Fox News.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people on the left were upset, but I think it's brilliant because, let's face it, the two sides are entrenched. It's like, to date, not one person on Twitter has ever said, wow, before this thread, I thought differently, but you've made such compelling points. I now see your side. Thank you.
When it comes to politics, yeah.
Right. So there's going to be, we'll lose sleep over it. I mean, as awful as he is, there's more than a 50-50 chance that he gets reelected.
He has a stunning chance of getting reelected.
And what's going to make the difference is, there's honestly, there's only 5 states that are really going to make the difference. Like, California is going to vote this way. Massachusetts is going to vote this way. Kentucky's going to vote that way. I mean, there's no middle ground. There's only real middle ground. There's 40% of people, if he, like he said, shot somebody in the face on Fifth Ave, he would get away with it. And he could shoot, a fallen soldier's orphan child on the street, and 35 to 40% of people in this country are going to vote for him. And the same thing on the other side. Elizabeth Warren could turn out to be completely horrible and, and all this time going after the bank, really be on the take or whatever. And 40% of people are going to vote for that side. And it's only, and I'm leaving 20% there. There's not 20% undecided. There's probably 10. And the difference will be when you saw the Electoral College, it looks like he won by a lot, but in 4 or 5 states that Blotus won, he only won by a percentage point or two. But the way the elections work,
winner take all. So he loses the popular election by 3 million votes, and won a handful of states by a combined total of like 70,000 votes. Divide up between a few states. Tell me more about the Electoral College and gerrymandering, Uncle Jacques.
And so that's why going on Fox and maybe convincing just 1% of people who wouldn't ever think about voting for a Democrat to maybe vote for you type thing. I mean, that's honestly, you got to sway 70,000 out of how many people voted in the last election? Like 40.
60, well, it was like 68. It was like 60. It was in like 130 something thousand votes, right? It was in like 60 something to 60 something
million votes, right?
Yeah,
and the difference in the presidency was 70,000 votes scattered between like 3 or 4 states.
The Rust Belt, yeah, we know what's going on.
So going on to Fox, does that swing? Because you need to swing 1% of the electorate from that side to your side.
Well, here's the thing: does it hurt more for him to go on to Fox News because he may, I don't know, maybe disenfranchise borderline supporters of him prior to going on Fox News, and then it's like, oh, he going on Fox News? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I mean that's like,
does he lose those votes? I mean, or does it all come out in the wash? Or is it like, if Joe Biden went on Fox News and did a thing, is he now like, oh, what a sellout? Like he's a fucking, I don't know, they're as shitty as it is to legitimize Fox News, they are a goddamn news organization, I suppose. Not really, but I mean, for now they are. So it's like, they're not One American News Network or Newsmax, which pop up on my guide, and I'm like, you know what's weird about the Newsmax channels? If you ever look at, you got to check it out because it's on my cable system. It's lumped in like with the CNBCs and CNNs and stuff, but like prime time, their programming is like very Hitler heavy, but then it's also like very like Jerusalem heavy kind of thing. Like it's, it's weird. I don't know. I've seen some odd programming choices, and I'm like, are they trying to like mend some sort of weird fence, or are they trying to? Because like in the early 90s or in the 90s and early 2000s, if you saw like Hitler documentaries, they would be on like History Channel and they would be accurate. But now when you see stuff, when I see like Hitler stuff now, I'm like, it's usually on a more conservative network, I think, and I'm like, are they airing Hitler documentaries for the wrong reason? Like, is it sort of like is this like the Me TV of of the right wing? Is this like, oh, you remember, Hitler was really evil, wasn't he? Boy, look at all the evil stuff he did, like wanting to make Germany great again. Wasn't he a bad guy? Gosh, he was awful.
He didn't smoke and liked animals.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, I don't know. So now I look at, if you air Hitler documentaries, it's almost like an excuse to put, because when you air a Hitler documentary, that you can't avoid airing the swastika. You know what I mean?
I do.
It's almost like it's a little dog whistly, if you know what I mean? Is my tinfoil hat coming through?
No, and during every commercial break when it's a advertisement for the My Pillow,
I knew you were going to say fucking My Pillow because he's the only guy.
Well, right, because he is over the top, absolutely, open speeches,
head over heels for Trump and all
that
shit.
Because God
anointed him,
right?
Yeah.
Just like, I'm quite sure he felt that every president, including the black one, was anointed by God.
Wink, wink.
No, I think that's an interesting point. And I've thought that recently, too. I'm like, are they trying to soften? It's like...
Normalize it.
Normalize it. Thank you. That's the big boy word that I was trying to think.
Yeah, like they just sort of like, Hitler. Yeah, okay, Hitler. And then maybe like 3 years from now, I'll be like, Hitler, was he that bad? And it's like, let's watch this on a loop.
Fine people on both sides.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of which, that's what Joe Biden led off with in his campaign video. Charlottesville, North Carolina. Yes, right?
North Carolina.
Yeah.
Or the Carolinas.
I know. But, he went right for the jugular, which...
Good.
Yeah.
No playing fucking nice.
Yeah.
Seriously, the whole
Uncle
thing about,
Joe's not playing nice.
The whole thing about like taking the high road, it hasn't worked. When George Bush attacked like John Kerry and the swift boat Captains for Justice, calling into question the legitimacy of his fourth Purple Heart. It's like, the wound wasn't that severe. Was he wounded? Was he over in Vietnam and you want to call? So, okay, let's take away the fourth Purple Heart. What about the other three? But that's the dirty tricks that have always worked for them. Go ahead. Don't play nice.
Well, Hillary did that. So she went right for Donald Trump. She was the big, I'm like voting against Donald Trump candidate,
Well, the balancing act is it can't be just, I'm not Donald Trump. It has to be more. And I think that's one of the mistakes that the Hillary campaign made is that I'm not Donald Trump isn't a platform.
Yeah, right. And I don't want Biden to be that way as well. Like, it's kind of like, yeah, it's a triggering thing. And it's just like, yeah, you're right. This is not, he's playing to his base is what Biden's doing. He's
fundraising right now still.
Yeah, no, right. So, okay. So maybe, down the line we'll get some policy. I know. And it's funny, like we say that policy is like important when we talk about presidential candidacies. But when they actually get down to the policy, we start to snooze. We start to go, this is kind of boring, because policy is boring. This sort of mudslinging is exciting. It's wrestling. And that's what Donald Trump won on. He won on the WWE factor and making fun of reporters with disabilities and, talking about women's periods and shit. Like, that's...
It won him.
Yeah.
People wanted that.
Yeah, people loved it. And it's just... that's the problem. The Democratic candidates can't deliver that. They can't. There's no way.
Can any politician in a non-election year fill any arena talking about policy?
No.
Can the WWE fill any arena in this country every single week?
Yes. Yeah, because it's well scripted. That is a fine batch of programming, I must say.
It really is.
It is funny to because I don't watch wrestling anymore, but to tune in when my wife isn't home, I'll be like Monday night, let's see what's happening. And then I watch it for 5 seconds and I'm like, this is fucking funny but ridiculous. And I'm not but then you see the crowds. And
18,000 screaming people in there.
And 90% of them have red hats at home.
Yeah.
Or in the venue.
All
right, we were kind of lingering on this.
Speaking of, we talked about it when it happened. a couple months ago, an FBI raid on a Coast Guard sergeant house. He had a surprise, a cache of guns and other kind of like explosive devices and a plan to go after. And he had a hit list. He had a hit list of journalists and political opponents of Blotus that he was planning an attack on. And now, his lawyers were saying it's overblown. It's like, sure, he had this very detailed list of people and how he was going to go after them and had the means in which to do it.
But don't we all?
And now it seems our illustrious Attorney General is lobbying for him to be released. I mean, to still stand trial, but, he's not really that much of a danger to the public at large. So we can have him, walking around and, let's say, go to neighboring states where he could probably still buy firearms and all this stuff. It's like, why would you have somebody? And so far, they have not. Even though he had a hit list of people and the arms to wage a small war, not a terrorist. What's the number one reason they haven't labeled him a terrorist?
He's white.
Thank you. I mean, I can't think of any other reason. And I don't think I'm borrowing your tinfoil hat you mentioned a couple minutes ago. Brown guy had a hit list of conservative people on Fox News and Mitch McConnell to go after, and had, dozens and dozens of high-powered firearms and, tens of thousands of, rounds of armor-piercing like munitions. I'm pretty sure they'd be quick to throw that label on him. But the last awful thing I wanted to mention is, in the last couple weeks, because it gets overlooked all the time, especially because we're always so focused on Russia and the Mueller report and stuff. Remember a couple months ago that the Congress voted, not unanimously, but pretty close to unanimous, as did the Senate, to end the U.S.-backed Saudi war against Yemen?
Yes.
Got
overturned.
Got vetoed.
Oh, vetoed, yes.
Got vetoed. Like, that's the will of the people. Like, if you have to have a veto, it has to be a pretty fucking good reason. Why are you vetoing another country's war on the other side of the world? What do we possibly have to gain by the genocide that's going on there? And then, funny enough, just a few days later, when Trump ripped up the agreement with Iraq and implemented, the old sanctions on them, gave waivers to a few countries. I believe it was like China, Turkey, and one other country that was allowed to buy oil from Iraq. Iraq was allowed to export oil to just those three, but otherwise the sanctions were in place. Well, Blotus said, nope, as of May 1st, complete shutdown. Those countries can no longer get exported oil from Iraq. Simultaneously, the good folks in Saudi Arabia released a statement saying they're going to up production to make up for the lack of oil not coming out of Iraq. They are happy to fill the supply gap. So I don't know how much more blatantly obvious it is. It is not Putin that is the puppeteer here. It is 100% Saudi Arabia. I mean, the first visit of his presidency, the very first state visit that he did, it wasn't to, the normal places we go: England, France, Germany, Canada,
Whiteville,
Mexico. Right. He went to Saudi Arabia and instantly put the embargo, led, coalition against our military base supporting country in Qatar. So Saudi Arabia does not let us put bases in Saudi Arabia anymore, but Qatar is where everything is based. And, the first visit he was to Saudi Arabia. I don't know how much more disgustingly, obviously blatant that you have to point out, from the slang of the journalist Khashoggi.
Yeah, pretty close.
Pretty close. Yes, the entire world said, yeah, he did it, and he's still saying no.
Well, he said he didn't do it. He said he had nothing to do with it.
I wish you didn't do such a good impression because the voice creeps me out. But anyway, I mean, it's just, it gets buried in the news. Again, people don't want to talk about policy, but when you are elected, when Russia anoints you as our president and then Saudi Arabia completely controls our foreign policy and at the...
what about Russian oil production? I mean, are they not
no, they don't. They're not a big
oil exporter.
But that's it. When Saudi's like, oh, we're happy to. Are you happy to? Because it's supply and demand, and we're cutting off the supply, so you're going to meet the demand. And I'm quite sure there's no kind of kickback or any kind of money exchanging hands there. Anyways,
right? Well, They'll learn when they see a couple of Trump hotels going up in Saudi Arabia. Oh my God, these are complete shitholes. What have we done?
I should have brought it up at the top, because I'm like, I don't want to end on a complete sour note. Well, maybe it is a sour note. So I talked to my friend Caroline in LA today, had a conversation because I decided if I do go out there this summer, she's done a bunch of stand-up comedy. I'm like, I will commit to doing like 2 or 3 like open mics with her if she will, because I kind of don't want to go and do it by myself type thing. So I'm going to force myself. I'm going to give myself imposed dates, which means you're going to have to write some stuff for me, Joe.
Oh, goody.
So,
Thanks, Caroline. Bop, bop, bop. Good times never felt so good indeed.
Shut it.
So good. So good. So good.
Now, in order to be able to pay for the licensing of you singing that, now we have to run a defunct sponsor.
Something good has come to town. George the milkman brings it round.
What's going on, folks?
Tell me, George, the dog ate the newspaper.
Okay. Kellogg's Graham Cracker cereal.
Graham crackers?
Graham Crackers, like graham crackers with a little O's.
Like my newspaper?
Yep, the O's let the milk flow through for graham cracker and milk taste in every bite.
Mmm, crunchy.
Like graham crackers made from milk. Cheer up, Harry, you just ate the best news of the day.
Kellogg's Graham Crackers.
Part of this nutritious breakfast.
So, Joe, you've been watching a lot of Bruins hockey.
3 games, I think.
Now, when you say 3 games...
It smells like cock in here.
I think.
I know. Yeah.
Oh, wait, didn't somebody on Twitter, or did I get a text or did somebody tweet something about them were disappointed that there weren't more...
Biff on Twitter said, I was disappointed that during the game show sideshow that there was a lack of Paul Lind and Charles Nelson Riley references. And I go, on Twitter, I replied, guess I dropped the ball. First time for everything.
Now, when you say you watch 3 games, did you watch 3 live Bruins games playing Toronto and now the Columbus Blue Jackets, or are you counting the side-by-side playing Sega 94 hockey as
the
one
live
of the
human games? Thank you. Yeah. So I'm watching a little Bruins hockey because why the hell not? I'm a big, poser, big piece of shit. I figure what do the normies do? What do other male heterosexual
sports team?
Yeah, how do other people spend their time when they're not watching 80s commercials on YouTube? What do the other people watch?
What are the other 99%?
Yeah, I mean, Game of Thrones isn't on right now, so what is America watching? Or at least people in the Boston area. And I go, you know what? Let me give this a try. And I think now my cable package changed over the past couple of months because previously I didn't get sports channels. And now I do. So now it's like, okay, well, I have no excuse. The hockey's on. I got to watch it.
And the games are great.
The games are great. The Blue Jackets. Wow, what a team.
Which, their coach, John Tortorelli, one of the best personalities in sports. He's a complete asshole. He is a complete over-the-top condescending prick, and he is awesome. His press conferences have always been great.
If you were going to have a press conference contest between this guy and Bill Belichick, who would win?
Tortorelli. I mean, because Belichick's a condescending prick who just stares you down and doesn't answer questions. Tortorelli will go out of his way to over answer a question, and like they keep playing the same clip where I think it was this season. Somebody was missed a game and they listed like lower body injury and they were getting pressed, and he had explosive diarrhea. He goes, "You want to know what happened?" And he went into great detail for a few minutes talking about the vomiting and diarrhea. And it's like, okay, you really want to push this and open it up? Get ready. I'll give you some sound bites that you will enjoy for years to come. Yeah, and you were very surprised, as were many people recently, because a lot of people, the Blue Jackets, Columbus Blue Jackets, a small market team,
not
expansion.
Exactly a playoff bound team.
This
is their first second round ever.
They shocked the world by not just winning their first playoff series, they swept the best team in hockey. And every game was by a few goals. It wasn't a bad call. Like, there was a couple bad calls in hockey in last week we won't get into, but some historically bad calls in hockey. In a game 7, a couple of them. But it wasn't that. It wasn't a missed opportunity, a bad call, a fluky goal, or something like that. They completely destroyed the Tampa Bay Lightning, which had the best record in like 25 years in hockey. But a lot of people haven't heard of them because they've never made the playoff, or in their 20-year existence, they've made the playoffs a handful of times. They never won a round. And now you were going off about what your discovery, where the name came from.
Yeah, so I didn't know with the history. First of all, when you don't watch hockey for 20 years, you miss a couple of things. Like, Columbus, Ohio has a fucking hockey team. So I Wikipedia'd Columbus Blue Jackets. And turns out they were founded in 2000 as an expansion team. And they got their name from their Civil War history. And I'm like, wait a second. Pump the brakes there. Yes, they're on the northern side of the on the history of the Civil War, but weren't we admonishing another side of the country for touting their allegiance and their history and heritage going back to the Civil War days? Like, aren't we supposed to fucking not forget the Civil War, but not like celebrate the Civil War anymore? Like, stop perpetuating the Civil War? It was like one of the biggest, if not the biggest, blight on American history, the Civil War. Okay, the genocide on the Native Americans, fine. Maybe that's the biggest blight. But second would be the Civil War, brother against brother, over slavery, essentially, and some other things, but mostly slavery. So why would a team it's like, would we go for a team called, the Alabama Confederates? Like, it's not cool. Like, why are the Blue Jackets cool? Because we won. Is that how it goes?
Sadly, history is written by the winners. Right.
Well, yeah, and it depends on whose history you're reading there. But it's kind of a double standard. Like, we want cities and towns in the South to tear down statues of Confederate generals. Yeah, they were on the wrong side of history, granted, but at the same time, it's just like, the Blue Jackets, like, really, that really speaks volumes of what's going on in Columbus when you have to go as far back. I mean, okay, time out, Joe. There's a team in the New England area called the Patriots, there's another hockey team called the Revolution. But again, we were fighting against England as a country. That's one thing. This is kind of the same. I don't know. Maybe I know, social warrior, justice warrior, bullshit, stupid non-sports fan guy. But the Blue Jackets, I don't know. It doesn't roll off the tongue, really.
I mean, they could have gone with the, I don't know if you get this reference, born in 77, the Burning Rivers.
Right, because they had so much oil and waste that...
it was waste. The Cuyahoga River.
I thought that was Cleveland. That's Cleveland. That's the mistake by the lake.
Oh, no.
Oh, the Cuyahoga River. Oh, yeah.
Right.
Because the lake had also caught on fire.
Cleveland to the Bay. Yeah, maybe it was.
Yeah, it was Cleveland.
Those are different places? Well, who knew that?
It's not WKRP in Columbus.
Oh, okay.
It's WKRP
in Cincinnati.
Which is another Ohio dump. That's right.
I can't do the Dave Osborne look. So here's the thing about the Bruins. And I mean this. There is absolutely no excuses for them not to make it to the Cup now because fate has smiled upon them. The best team in hockey over the last 20 years, the Lightning this year, swept out by the 8th place seed. The Bruins cannot beat the Washington Capitals, have not been able to beat the Capitals in 5 or 6 years. Rask's record against the Capitals, he finally got a win in regulation against them like this year for the first time in 5 years. He's something like 1-15-3 against them. No, it is horrible, and I'm not even making it up.
Yeah, they just got his number.
If the Bruins are the 2nd seed and they're the 7th seed, they own the Bruins. The Carolina Hurricanes knocked them out of the playoffs in the first round. So everybody that we would face, going forward, are teams. I mean, the Bruins have the 2nd best record in all the NHL. And again, that's great, but they were 15, 18 points behind Tampa, who's gone. The first place seeds, for the first time in hockey, the first place seeds in all 4 divisions were knocked out in the first round. I mean, that's just crazy to think about. They will have home ice, throughout the playoffs. And honestly, it could be a situation where each team they play each round, the opponent, I don't want to say gets easier, but is less stocked with great players, so to speak. Again, you don't want to look past anybody. I mean, the Blue Jackets did sweep convincingly the best team in hockey. And as you saw the game, game 1, by the time this post, game 2 will have been played 2 days ago. But in game 1, now granted, their goalie, who's won the Vezina Trophy twice, is a great goalie, is an amazing goalie. In the first 10 minutes, the Bruins could have been up 3 or 4 goals. Seriously, they weathered the storm. The Bruins were up 1-0 halfway through the 3rd period, and then 2 fluky goals.
Yeah, right. Really quick, within 13
seconds.
Yes.
The guy who went on to be the hero of game 1 was looking down the barrel of being the GOAT because he completely coughed.
And not the good kind of goat.
Right,
not the Brady goat.
Greatest of all time goat. But, completely coughed up the puck back of the net. And then on the ensuing face-off, basically a guy's just dumping the puck in, hits one of his own players in the back of the calf, and completely changes direction. And now it's 2-1. But guy who coughed up puck had the game tying, the game winning goal in overtime.
Would you say that the Bruins style of gameplay is scrappy? Because they're not as well oiled, or their passing is horrendous.
Well, the funny thing is, they have the best line in hockey. And right now, I don't think there's a better player in the playoffs left than Brad Marchand. I mean, he's been amazing, but and he's had a couple open net goals, and he's had a couple. But in the last 3 games, the games have been won by the Bruins' 4th line, the grinding guys, the 3rd and 4th line. In game 7, in game 6, and game 7 against Toronto, which luckily the Bees were down 3-2 in the series. The 3rd and 4th line is what won game 6 and won game 7, and what won game 1.
Tuukka Rask a little bit too.
Tuukka Rask,
yeah, I mean he was amazing.
He had a good series against Toronto, had a great game 7. I mean, just a great game 7. And the same thing, game 1 against the Blue Jackets. You don't fault them on, especially the second goal that they scored.
Right, it was right off the face-off, and
deflection off.
Yeah, it was a weird deflection. Yeah.
So anyway, enough about that. But yeah, there's no reason that the Bruins, and I'm not.
Listen to me talk about hockey.
No, it's fantastic. The NFL draft was, started this week.
Didn't watch a second of it.
For the first time, I think it's either the first or only the second time in Bill Belichick's coaching career, he picked a wide receiver. He has a theory that you can coach up that position, that you can get a good wide receiver in the 3rd or 4th round. And what I love is all the experts picking apart his draft history, because he hasn't had a lot of great drafts over the years. It's true. The Bruins, the Patriots haven't drafted somebody who's made the Pro Bowl since 2013. So, I mean, that's kind of a stunning statistic. In the last, 5 seasons, 5 full seasons, that they haven't drafted anyone who went on to the Pro Bowl. Fun fact, Joe. Maybe you know this, maybe you don't. In the last 5 seasons, they've gone to 4 of the 5 Super Bowls, winning 3 of them. So people are picking apart, well, he can't pick the skill positions. Like, they haven't drafted a great wide receiver. They haven't drafted a running back who's, now Sony Michel had a good year, but that's one good year. But they haven't drafted a household name running back. Like, and the couple household names that they had on defense that they've drafted the last few years have been traded away, chased out of town for one reason or another. Again, fun fact, 4 of the last 5 Super Bowls have been, that the Patriots been to. So when you're shooting holes, like, well, how shitty is his drafting ability if they keep making it back?
Exactly, right. You can't argue with results.
And they have a lot of draft capital. Everybody was expecting them to flip it, because he does that a lot. He'll give away his first-round draft pick for your second-round draft pick this year and your second-round draft pick next year. And he's like, and his thinking is a lot of people's thinking. There's a big difference between being one of the first 5 people drafted in the first round and one of the last 5 people drafted in the first round. And where the Patriots are always drafting late in the first round because they make it to 4 out of 5 Super Bowls, which means they're either drafting 31st or 32nd. And Belichick is like, I'd rather 2 people being drafted 54th and 61st than one person drafted 32nd and one person, So he always maximizes like the trade capital. So they went with a right receiver, and one of the reasons people are talking about that is Brady has a window. Are you trying to make him happy by giving him a couple, tools in the tool chest to play with?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I mean, right, because he doesn't have Gronk to throw to anymore, even though he's a tight end, but still.
You know who Brady would like to throw to? Did you see him tweet this week?
No.
After I think it was Game 6 against the Toronto, when Zdeno Chara had a really good game and was a physical beast. He's like, hey, maybe he could come and play a little tight end because he's 6'11".
Yeah.
He's a big, strong guy. But Brady tweeted that out. So that was
fantastic.
Kind of
yeah. He's a funny guy on Twitter.
He has been. He recently has been.
He even made fun of the Madden curse. You know what the Madden curse is? Oh, yes.
Well, because the Madden curse and the Sports Illustrated curse. Right. When Sports Illustrated picks you to win the Super Bowl, yeah, get out the golf club. Sure, you're about to. And the Madden curse, which you don't want to believe, but it wasn't like 8 out of 9 in a row got injured in the first 2 weeks of the season and missed the whole season. And then they put Gronk on it a few years ago.
Yeah, and that's what broke the curse.
And then they put Brady on it a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And so Mahomes, the quarterback for Kansas City, is on the cover this year. Mm-hmm. And Chiefs fans were losing their shit. Brady's like, don't worry about it.
Yeah, we broke the curse. Yeah, that's what Brady said. Yeah, I mean,
So Brady has not signed his new contract yet, and the last since our last broadcast, Russell Wilson has signed for extremely stupid money up in Seattle, and Big Ben Rapelessberger, no, not Rapelessberger,
Rapefullberger,
Rapefullberger,
Worthless Burger
has signed for crazy stupid money, and Brady hasn't signed. And he's going to sign. He's not going anywhere, but is this kind of one of those things where the Patriots are like, well, we don't want to pay you what you're worth, what other quarterbacks who are
comparable,
not even in your league,
well, yeah.
Are getting paid, but you're all about winning. So we went out, got you a new receiver. So why don't we call it even and you come on in?
Yeah, right. I know. It's almost like when it's also like it's kind of like the studio system. Like they kind of take care of their talent. They don't pay them huge money, but they really take care of them and give them the perks and bank on that sort of that attitude of they're doing it for the love of the game. And I don't know.
I mean, does the Kraft organization? I don't even think it's legal, but do you have a wink in the nod? It's like you, after you're done, are going to have a lifetime job being an advisor to the Patriots for $1 million a year, which doesn't count against the salary cap. But, you're still going to be faced with our franchise. We're going to, have you out to all these events. And, for the next 20 years, instead of paying you an extra $25 million now over the next 2 years, which counts against our salary cap, which won't allow us to go and replace Gronk or pay this new wide receiver or bring on somebody else. But we'll take care of you over the next 20 years. I mean, am I naive?
That's a little tinfoily?
No, or do things, because lots of players stick around in different cities and work with the team and are consultants and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know. You think about the Celtics. It's like all their GMs are pretty much ex-players over the years, and they're play-by-play. It's like Cedric Maxwell, who works for the Celtics broadcasting team. It's like, I don't know. It's a personality that it just fit. Did he want to stay in the market? But he officially works for the teams, not the radio station. So I don't know. I don't know if those deals actually happen or.
This is probably an unspoken thing where you want to stay loyal to the organization that has made you a star and made you millions of dollars and have scratched your back, and now it's
they've made Brady's made a couple $100 million off the Kraft family. Kraft family's probably made at least
Billions.
a couple billion. I mean, Gillette Stadium isn't there. That whole Patriot place and the hotel and the shopping and all that stuff that is packed year round is not there without.
That's you can't escape that from any organization. But that being said, I was going to say something, but I guess it slipped my mind. Oh,
so it's interesting.
Oh, I know.
Oh.
You mentioned the Celtics. Havlicek died. What are your thoughts? Hondo.
Just a tad before our time.
Yeah, right.
But perfect example. I mean, and I like the guys who are Celtics for life or Bruins for life or Colts for life. I like when one person is identified with one team. And Havlicek was one of those guys who had an amazing playing career and worked with the organization his entire life, through broadcasting and management and all that. And it's probably my favorite radio call of Johnny Most, the montage you hear when you listen to the Celtics games on the radio or on TV, the montages before the games and stuff they play with the historical calls of it. Yeah. Havlicek steals the ball so I'm 50. That actually probably that Havlicek steals the ball was a couple of years. I mean, I think that was in 75, something like that.
Havlicek steals the ball?
Yeah.
Was it in the 70s?
Oh, because he played he has 8 championships.
Right.
And
I thought that was like a 60s call.
Well, he has 6. He played from the 6. He's won 6 championships with Russell and stuff like that in the 60s. But then he won because the Celtics won twice in the 70s as well.
Yeah.
I think like 71 and like 75 or something like that. If you check it out on the Twitter machine or the Google machine.
65.
So he sold that.
Havlicek stole the ball as the.
Okay, so that predates me by 4 years, and it's still such an iconic call. And not in Celtics history and basketball history, and that's one of those things. It's like the poor fucking Johnny West. Is it Jerry West and the Lakers? Yeah. Fun fact: the NBA logo. Mm-hmm. That's Jerry West.
I think I did know that. Yeah.
He played on the Minneapolis, then Los Angeles Lakers / Washington Generals that lost, I think. So Bill Russell has 11 championships in his career. He played 13 years and has 11 championships. I want to say 7 of them were against the Lakers. 6 or 7 of them were against the Lakers. And there were a couple of those gut-wrenching ones. And Havlicek steals the ball. It was a game separated by 1 point, and in the last seconds,
Havlicek stole the ball.
The difference between winning and losing is Havlicek making that great defensive play. And then you saw it. It was one of those things like, there was so little time on the clock. He just took it and threw it up as high as he could. So the clock would run out.
Right.
So yeah, it's just, it is. It's And how old was he? He was like mid-70s.
I heard 79. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to say, I always pick this up from Taylor when he was like, that's a good run. Well, you tell that to the guy who's 80.
Yeah.
Yeah,
whatever.
But yeah, I mean, he a legend in Boston. He's one of those people who, I don't know if he was from here or whatever, but he never left. Is one of the faces of the Celtics, which is saying a lot. I mean, they have a couple, and yeah, it's not sad. Like,
no, it's just the passage of time. Yeah,
but yeah. Right, but yeah, I mean, he's there you have it.
Another white guy Celtic.
Another white hero.
Yes.
Which is one thing this town is sorely lacking.
And if it was a movie made in the 2000s about Havlicek, he would have had a magical Negro to show him the way. Like the guy sweeping up the floor, and he would be his muse to like.
Please, I implore you. Conan did a skit. No, not sorry. Seth Meyers
did a sketch.
Seth Meyers did a sketch recently. And it came out like the day before the Oscar, and it was called White Savior.
Oh gosh!
And it took every cliche from every black movie or movie with like black main character, because every one of those movies it was exactly that. It sure, the hero of the story is this black woman who was this great mathematician, but her brilliance only saw the light of day because of the white savior who swept in and made it possible for her. Mm-hmm. Or, the
Green Book.
Right, exactly. The whole, and man, was that hysterical.
Yes, and historical.
But, and speaking of black movies, not that we were, I guess, Jordan Peele has said, he's not going to be making any movies where the lead will be a white person. To Patton Oswalt was belligerent and said, what else can I possibly act in other than every other movie, TV show, and commercial on TV? Where will we possibly find work?
Yeah.
Pretty funny stuff.
He's a funny guy.
He should think about doing that full time.
Yeah. He's got talent, that kid. He's got moxie. No, wait, I got moxie. It's up there on the shelf in a can.
You'd like me to open it up for you?
No. I'll never get the fumes out of here.
All right, Joe. Now on to the important stuff. What are you doing video game wise?
Cuphead still.
Are you playing, or are you just enjoying watching?
It's
sex.
Don't knock it. I'm playing it, and my younger son's playing it, and we did a little co-op, and we still couldn't beat the fucking boss. And then right before you showed up, I beat the boss on my own, because I didn't have him dragging me down. But it's a brutal fucking game. It's not your cup of tea. Cuphead of tea. Joe, you are the cat's meow.
Now, my little guy who watches all these fan theories about games are Cuphead and Mugmen products of moonshining? Is it like they try to make stories behind
they
these?
seem to have milk in their gullets or whatever you want to call it.
Oh.
But the product of moonshine, I don't know, maybe. I know. The story is pretty seedy. They're like these two characters who go into a casino, and then they make a deal with this guy called the Dice Man. Oh, and then
wow.
And they play a dice game in a casino, and they lose all the winnings, and then they have to, instead of paying off their way of paying off their debt is collecting souls on behalf of the devil that runs the casino. And that's what your mission in these games are. You go from land to land collecting souls from these weird monsters and bosses. And that's the whole game. Like the meat of the game of these is just over the top hard boss fights. And you really have to if you're an average player, you're probably playing against a boss that's a formidable boss, probably at least 30 times. Right out, after your 10th death, exactly when to retry, because you don't lose lives, you just retry. And if you get hit once in the wrong spot, you go, okay, I'm going to retry it. And it's like rote memorization. You just sort of get the patterns down and get through it. But the art style is fantastic. You know, you got the music from the 30s. We talked about Cuphead last week. Oh,
but talk about it again because I'm not bored. I'm not bored. I still notice how I play it, but if it's on the background and the boys are playing it on the big TV, I'm like, this is mind-numbingly fun to watch.
It's a testament to the soundtrack because you would think after the 100th playing of a boss, you would get tired of the music, and it can get grating at times, but it doesn't get like irritating. You know, it's not. It sucks you in. You get into it. It's like the whole aesthetic carries you through the slog, like the real test of wits against these hard bosses. And it's fun to see what the next boss is because you can't just, you have to you can only access a couple of boss layers at a time, and then once you knock those off, then it opens up the rest of the world, and it keeps you interested. Like the whole aesthetic keeps you wanting to come back and wanting to see more bosses and see how much harder it's gonna get. Like, is it gonna get fucking harder than this? Like, this is level 1, and I'm ready to throw the Switch out the window. So I'm doing that video game wise. I'm trying to really think if there's anything else I'm really playing, but no, I mean that's kind of it. I mean, and I'm not playing it a whole lot, but what I am, it is Cuphead. You?
Well, I'll let you tell the nice people at home about my big week of video game
Oh,
playing.
right, yes. I remember when I bragged to you about getting first place in Tetris 99 on the Switch because that was a hard thing to do, and I retired from Tetris 99.
Where do you go from there?
Yeah, I mean, like, I already got it. I don't care. I'm not going to try to be president of Tetris Land. I just want to know that I could have gone the distance, and I did. You texted me that you finally 100%ed Resident Evil 2 on PlayStation 4, and you were lamenting last week. You were one trophy away. You were like teetering on the 99% line, and finally you crossed it. And all I could tell from what you achieved is you got the ultra rare trophy, but that's from getting all the other achievements. So what was the last achievement that got you the ultra rare?
So it turns out, unlike a lot of other games, there was a DLC with this, and you only had to beat one DLC. There was like 5 in there, but there's one specific one that you had to win, this trophy called the Grim Reaper. And as part of the story of the game, you see some special forces corpses strewn around the facility, and the underbelly in the sewers and these other places. You are like the last living one, and you have to make it out. And basically, it makes you go through the entire map, and there's no picking up ammo or healing items on the way. You start out pretty stacked, but you have you
got to make it last.
At least 80% of the people you come by, you have to get around without shooting. You can't just blast them out of your way and run past them. And it's like you said, like there's a good deal of pattern recognition, but there's also a good deal of randomness where the certain creatures always jump at you, and sometimes they jump left and sometimes they jump right. And it's not like, well, the first 3 times you'll do it this way, and then so the next time you do it just slightly different. And so did that. You know what I mean?
But then you have to sort of pick up on their tells, because there usually is a tell before they move, right? And you
only have to do it about 50 times.
Yeah.
And like you
said,
well, it's so to get from point A to point B, it takes about 12 minutes. Just to beat this thing, it only takes 12 minutes. And with inside minute 1 or 2, no, just reset it. And the pain in the ass thing, it takes about 5 minutes to
load,
quit out, quit it, let the quit screen go, reload it, then it has to reload the whole game. Right, exactly. Just that's the frustrating thing.
At least Cuphead is just like and then you start over in like 10 seconds, like 1 second.
So if you're 4 minutes in, if you're 3, and that's the thing. Sometimes you're like 5-6 minutes in, and you're like, well, I'm not going to beat this game, but I want to know the pattern recognition from minute 6 to minute 8 a little better. So it's at this point, it's worth it to
learn to
go the extra. I'm not going to make it the whole way, but I'll try this. as I'm saying these words out loud onto a microphone that's being recorded, and I felt like a loser going in. Wow, is this an indictment on the life that I've chosen for myself? And the whole time, those 5 or 6 minutes to reset and then do it away, I could have been a father or a husband. I could have done some charity work. I could have done some work, but no. But I will say, at least most of my game playing done is usually done between like 11 a.m. and 2 a.m. when everybody's asleep and I'm wide awake. And
right, it's garbage time.
I'm not taking what but seriously, it took way too much time, and I wish I was 100% done with the game, because there's only one tiny thing I haven't done. Is like, you can play as the guy Leon and play the same game as Claire, and it's 75-80% the same. Why they made it vastly harder for the woman Claire, I do not know.
Because that's the way the world is.
It is.
A woman has to work twice as hard to be
she
equal to
really
a man.
does. And she gets less weapons and
less pay,
less firepower. Well, hey,
that goes without saying. Less clothing.
It's honestly, it's like the cool thing is you can pick the outfits, and it's like I go with the noir outfit, so either one of them is like decked out like in those nice like 1930 kind of suits and stuff like that. But yeah, you can choose her to basically be in a tank top and the 1984 Boston Celtics shorts where you can see what religion the guys are. I don't choose to go that route.
Hey, when I play Spider-Man, a Marvel Spider-Man, I choose to play with him in his underwear. I don't know why. And I'm not quoting. There is a skin.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah.
I 100. Because and
it's just like it's Peter Parker, and then like in Spidey underwear or something, or just regular underwear. You just like boxer shorts.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But so there's only one more thing to unlock, and I don't have to unlock it to have the 100%. But I do want to get the Infinity like minigun and just be able to go through. I mean, it's
in God mode.
It's like the rocket launcher, but more brutal. Like you can just rip these people to shred type things, But again, as I say these words out loud,
you're just getting your money's worth, is all.
And truly, spent $60 on the game.
Yeah.
3 months ago. 2-3 months ago,
and that's 3 solid months of playing. Like, not a day has gone by where you haven't played. Meh.
No, the sad thing is, like, even in the hospital with the little guy for 6 days,
you lugged the PS4 into it.
I did. I sadly did. But like I said,
Stop saying sadly. Did you have laughter and fun?
I did. And
then you happily played Resident Evil 2.
There was a PS4 that hadn't had it on in the game room, and I would play it in there, and it was playing anew. There was no preloaded things, and you got the satisfaction of getting all the gameplay trophies anyway.
Feels like the first time.
Feels like the very. Name the band.
Oh, I wish I could. Oh, what is it? Is it? Oh, come on. What is it? Dude, what the fuck is it? What does it begin with?
F. And we don't want any more of them here. Thank you.
Yeah, all right.
Built that wall. Yeah. I was trying to give you all the clues I could.
Oh, God. What's wrong with me?
But now what time is it?
Time to bust a rhyme? Nah, G. It's time for my stupid random video game review. Dumb ass. More video game talk. So we won't be, entertaining Floor anytime soon. So now Jacques has pulled a game off of my wall, and it's a Sega Genesis game.
What kind of game?
Sega. Let's see. I have to kind of move around because the glare is. It's a super. Oh, so it's Super Street Fighter 2. It can't. No, it's not Super Street Fighter 2. It's not. Oh, it is. It's Super Street Fighter 2. Oh, okay. Look at me. This is a good game, classic game. Everybody loves Street Fighter 2, especially.
Was 2 the better one?
Well, it's the one, like the original fighting street game, which was then named Street Fighter. It was like the beta version of Street Fighter 2. So this is I guess a souped up version. There's Super Street Fighter 2, and then there's like Street Fighter 2 Special Championship Edition. There's like, I'm not that big of a Street Fighter fan to know what the best version of Street Fighter is or what the definitive version of Street Fighter is. And they've had sequels. There's Street Fighter 3, 4, and 5, which was the most recent. But Street Fighter 2 is the one you play in the arcades. It's the go-to one from the 90s that everybody loves with Ryu and his Hadouken. And Blanca, the big fat sumo wrestler guy. No, Blanca. No, I'm thinking that's E Honda. Blanca is the green monster guy. That his special move is the lightning, like the body lightning that zaps all of his enemies. He's basically super overpowered. M. Bison's the big bad guy. Chun-Li is the the leggy karate person or kung fu. I don't know. It's a fun game. I mean, it's fucking Street Fighter, man.
So I thought everybody was kung fu fighting.
They were as fast as lightning. But what, I don't know. Maybe Street Fighter, Super Street Fighter 2 has something else. Cammy, DJ, T-Hawk, and Fei Long have earned the right to enter the World Warrior Tournament. So I guess these are new fighters that, I don't know, maybe T-Hawk. I don't know. Maybe this is like not exactly like the main event. Like this isn't really the one that everybody remembers and loves. But I mean, it's fucking Street Fighter. So I don't know. I'm rambling here. The manual that comes with my copy is only the cover, so I can't go too deep into the character list. But yeah, it's a good fighting game. It has 40 megs, the largest Genesis game ever. And this came out in, God, what is it? There's no copyright date on there. That's how old it is. They didn't have copyright dates on the cards. 93. Okay.
And who made it?
Sega. No, actually, it was Capcom. Which may also.
What else does Capcom make?
Resident Evil and Mega Man and all other things. Okay. So, yeah. Super Street Fighter 2. It's a game to play on your Sega Genesis. But there's other better Street Fighter games out there. Thank you.
And what do you think it's going for on the interwebs?
I'm going to say, I don't know, $8.
If I got the right one.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
That's $9.70 plus shipping. Okay. And that's just card only. That's not even...
Ka-ching.
Yep. Yep. So great.
Money, 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 money.
Right.
Money.
What am I complaining about?
Yeah, exactly. What are you watching?
Well, I'm glad you asked. There's a little show on the internet, of all places, called Cobra Kai that's in its second season on YouTube Premium, which is an outrageously priced $16 per month. Basically, it gives you access to YouTube without ads and then their original programming. And I think I can listen to music, like I can if I watch YouTube videos with music on my iPhone, I can put it into sleep mode and it'll still play in the background, whereas if you don't have premium, it'll shut off if you put it into sleep mode. So that you get that. It's like a little mini iPod, I guess.
Well, it's worth.
Yeah, a little
$16.
A little streaming thing. And I think actually they do have a separate service called YouTube Music that's cheaper. But Cobra Kai is what I'm talking about. And he's the best around. No one's ever going to bring him down. And by him, I don't even know who I'm talking about because it could be Ralph Macchio's character, Daniel LaRusso, who now is the owner and proprietor of LaRusso Auto. Have you seen any of...
I watched the first 2 of season 1.
Yeah. And then actually the first episode of season 2 is available for free, but it is one of those kind of things where you have to know the story. And these are my stories. I fucking love Cobra Kai. I loved the first season. The guys who put this together have treated it with such reverence, but with a wink and a nod. And it's not too cheesy. It's not like super cheesy, but they play it like an 80s movie. They know it's a symphony of storytelling and editing and music, and it's a fantastic show. And in nostalgia, I mean, the Johnny Lawrence is firmly feet planted, cemented in the 1980s. Like he discovers the internet in this season, and it's just so funny to watch him. And
it's just like when Quagmire discovered the internet.
Yeah, not so much, but it's a little. But it's funny nonetheless. But then there are new old characters. Basically, so the end of season 1, spoiler, John Kreese, the founder of Cobra Kai, emerges from obscurity. They thought he died. Turns out, no, he's not dead. And now he's back to help Johnny Lawrence take Cobra Kai to the next level. And we all know he was basically the Darth Vader of the 80s, if you will.
Sweep the leg,
no mercy. Right. And so he's involved, and he's a major player, and a very interesting character. But the way that the show makes you switch your allegiances from Cobra Kai to Miyagi-Do is now the dojo that Ralph Macchio's Daniel-san is founding with his daughter. And another spoiler, the son of Johnny Lawrence is now basically living with Daniel LaRusso and his daughter. There's all of these soap opera-y things that aren't soap opera. It's just good storytelling. But I mean, you have something for the middle-aged guys who grew up watching the Karate Kid movies, and then it's like a teen, like, high school drama that's just well written. Like, you get into it. Like, you watch the story through the eyes and the lens of the teenage characters, but you're not looking at them as adults. Like, oh, look at these kids with their problems. Like, no, you start to sympathize with all of their problems. You become like a high school person when you're in the high school scenes. And then when they switch to the adult side, if you're an adult like us, you can see, okay, he's a dad. He has to deal with his teenage daughter going through these new experiences in her life, whether it be romantic or as a student, and it's just like, and you have some surprise guests come by from the movie, and they're constantly flashing back to the movie. Like when a situation presents itself that it makes the character remember a similar situation from the movie, like they flash back to that. So they interweave basically the entire universe of Karate Kid movie. Well, I wouldn't say the entire universe, but the first 3 movies. Yeah, I guess we count the third one as well. But it's so well done. There's just a couple of and then you get so into the performances of the actors. Like, you start to I found myself like looking up, like, who's this guy? Oh, I've seen him before. Who's that guy? And you know the movie I, Tonya?
I haven't seen it, but yes.
The guy who plays not Jeff Galooly, but the other guy, like the big guy, like he's like a character in this movie, and the actor's just phenomenal. Like, he's a funny friggin' guy. Like, you'll love him. Like, he might be your new favorite actor if you ever get a chance to watch Cobra Kai. I'll have to find some very legal way for you to watch Cobra Kai without giving you my Google password.
I could just hang out here one day.
I mean, it's only 5 hours. It's less than.
I'm here 5 hours every
Exactly.
Friday.
Let's not do the podcast when we can just watch Cobra Kai. But god damn it, if you don't want, it's $16. It's like renting a movie or buying a movie or whatever. Just check it out. Like, if you love Karate Kid, or even if you don't.
Now, that's something I would do. I would buy the series. Like when you can buy a season of something, I would definitely buy the season. I just don't want. Is it all out there at once, or do I have to wait every week?
No, it's 10 episodes and it's all at once, so it's bingeable.
So I can buy it and just watch.
Yeah, you
for
can.
A month.
Yeah, you can subscribe to YouTube Premium for a month, watch both seasons, and then get your $16 worth. Okay. But then it goes away once you cancel it. That's the thing. So, but not that. See, that's the thing.
But that's why I don't mind buying like every time a Marvel or DC movie or any movie I love comes out. It's like, okay, like I'm not probably going to see Endgame again in the theaters. I would, but it's like I can go see it again in the theaters, or I can wait a couple months, buy it, and have it play in the background 1,000 times for the same amount of money over the next 5 years.
You would love this series. This is like probably one of, if this was on television, it would be one of the best shows on television. But it's not. And we were talking earlier off the mic about how YouTube got this show, and I heard an interview with Ralph Macchio where he basically said they had pitched it to, there's 3 guys who created the show, and then they got William Zabka on board, who plays Johnny Lawrence, and then they finally, like Ralph Macchio was like the final holdout, like they finally kind of got him involved, and they sold him on it. And then when they pitched it around to all of these streaming services like Hulu and Netflix and Amazon, they got to the position where the services were pitching to them. Like they were the hot commodity. Like they knew, these services knew that this was something that was real and wasn't just a cash grab. Like it had legs, it had heart. It struck all the chords. And I guess what had happened was that YouTube basically would put them over the top. Another great movie, I'm sure. Over the Top. Remember that movie with the
arm wrestling?
Arm wrestling. Yeah.
Sylvester Stallone.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
But
welcome.
What put them over the top over everybody else was that they said, we don't even need to read the treatment of the script. Like, just here's money. You make 10 episodes and go. And that put YouTube Premium on the map. Like, that's the only reason I paid for YouTube ever, was to watch Cobra Kai Season 1. And the only reason I'm paying this month to watch Cobra Kai Season 2. And then, you get ad-free YouTube for a month. Yeah. I mean, that's nice for me because I watch nonstop YouTube because I, too, am a winner.
What I love is when you talk about, like, Johnny's old sensei coming back in Season 2. And truly, actors like that who probably for the last 10, 15 years has been making a living showing up at
card shows
in Poughkeepsie, New York, and making, eking out a living here and there. Because, you see those secondary characters, like, the Comic-Con in Boston recently. I remember it was like the first husband of the neighbor on Married with Children. And like there was nobody going over him.
Steve Rhodes, yeah.
And I'm like, oh.
I mean, I forget his real name.
I mean, I want to go over and chat up the guy because I felt bad. I was just sitting there, but I'm like, I'm not paying $15 to have a joke photo with me and him when I can get a stock photo and
Photoshop yourself in
myself.
No, but I find myself rooting, like kind of like the same way I did with, we don't like to talk about it anymore, Fuller House. Like, I liked the fact that these people who are not, seem to be nice people and actors or whatever. Maybe not Candace Bure and Lori Loughlin. We all know has something going on, but you root for these people who like.
Well, right, the big people on that show. Bob Saget's fine.
Yeah, but, John Stamos fine.
But
and I mean fine. But
I make a homophobic reference about that comment, but man, he is hot.
He is. I mean, he's a sexy guy.
He is.
I mean, you just want to, let's not get into it.
But he, who's the girl, the neighbor, the annoying girl?
Oh, Kimmy Gibbler.
What has she done since the show?
Right. Yeah, and you root for them because like this is, and that's the same. William Zabka never. I mean, he's done work and he's acted and he's been a working actor, but you forget like he plays this role really well. Like it's like it fits like a glove. And then like Ralph Macchio again, he's on another HBO show. He plays like a kind of a sleazy '70s cop, but he did like a Law and Order 5 years ago or whatever. But you see him in this, and it's like this is where they belong. Like you finally like, oh, this is their nirvana. This is their home. Like this universe that was built for them. You want this thing to go 5 seasons. You want them to just keep making this show and have it be enjoyed once a year by me, and millions of others. And you want to see like, will these kids who are on this show like 5 years from now do something like amazing, and it's like, oh yeah, they were on, they were the daughter on freaking Cobra Kai, or the nerdy best friend. And that's the thing, is that like, we can go on for eons about. I could go on for eons about Cobra Kai, but yeah, you're right. Like to see Martin Kove, who plays John Kreese, he's a really fucking like Thanos has has some competition from this
on
from
the
this
douchebaggery level.
Yeah, from this character. I mean, he's up there. Like he plays him well. Like it's I don't know. I mean, it's not cinematic level of acting, but for what it is, it's damn good.
I remember when you loved the show last season when season 1 came out, and we were kind of discussing if the and I would love to hear from the creators. I wonder if the episode of How I Met Your Mother was a catalyst for them rebooting this, because there was a great episode of How I Met Your Mother, and which Neil Patrick Harris's character, he always loves villains, but he doesn't see the villains as the villain. Like, he has a life-size stormtrooper at his house, and he's like, he loves Johnny from
Karate Kid.
And the whole episode, as we talked about, like, to surprise him, he wanted like his girlfriend. I
remember they had like William Zabka. Like, he wanted Johnny Lawrence to be at his show up at his.
Well, but she brought John Macchio. It's like
Ralph Macchio.
Ralph Macchio. It's like, I remember management when she came out to LA, she had to get me like a set of house keys, and she thought she was being really sweet because because of my love with the LA Kings, she went to Home Depot and brought me a key, got me a Kings keychain, Sacramento Kings, basketball team, and of course, where I don't like basketball players and hate black people, I of course didn't.
I'm going to say that right there. I'm going to stop you.
But
you do not hate black people. Okay. You like people. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey, this is being recorded, and some people listen.
Oh.
And some people don't get irony.
Oh, okay. I don't iron.
Yeah.
Anyways, but she got me a Sacramento keychain. So in a moment like that, his girlfriend set up so he could meet Ralph Macchio
because he loved the movie Karate Kid.
He loved the movie, and then it was at the end of the episode, and she also had brought a mime and all these other things. And he has his meltdown, and he's like, "I hate fucking Ralph." He doesn't swear because I hate Ralph Macchio. Blah, blah. The true victim, the true hero was Johnny, and the guy who was the mime was Johnny, and he takes off the face paint and all this stuff. I
think you're right. I think that because there was like internet theories and YouTube theories about how Johnny was living like a pretty nice life. He had a girlfriend and he had his friends. And then all of a sudden, this greasy Italian comes in, and
I do hate Italians. So.
Oh, absolutely, I mean too. I mean, we're on board
so
with
I can
that.
Say that. Right.
Oh, absolutely,
okay,
yes.
Right. All right. Not Macchio, not Mario and Luigi. Them we like.
Right, those are real. Though they're old country. I'm talking about new second generation.
Worst.
Yes, the worst. Especially from Brooklyn. Forget
about it.
No, but
Thank you for joining Hate Talk.
Oh my God!
Now next up is Alex Jones. What network is he on?
I don't think he's on any.
The hate spewing network.
Infowars.com. PrisonPlanet.com. Let's not get off onto that tangent. But you're right. I think that the creators did see that as sort of like the catalyst of. Yeah, there are two sides, many sides to the story. And right, it's great to just sort of expand on what looked like kind of a pretty one-sided universe and pretty one-sided like good versus evil. Like no, it's more than that. And it's funny, there is like a scene where like, so Johnny's he's on a first date with somebody who lives across the way from him, and they go to a Mexican restaurant, and all of a sudden. Coincidentally, Ralph Macchio, Daniel-san, shows up with his wife at the same restaurant. And the only table available is the empty one next to Johnny and his date. And so the wife and the girl, the date, start talking. And the Johnny's date realizes, oh, do you know this person? Because they kind of give each other the evil eye and say a couple of things. And Daniel's wife's like, oh, they have warring dojos. Let's eat. like she knows how ridiculous this whole thing is. They have warring dojos. It's that kind of humor and self-awareness, but not too self-aware. Right. It's perfect. The perfect show on television. I think I've talked 25 minutes about Cobra Kai, which is about the length of an episode.
Which I literally, when you stumble onto something that you are passionate about, it truly makes the incredulous drive over here more and more. I mean, honestly, my favorite part is like when you really, go off on something like this. You sold me. Now, I won't be watching it anytime soon because the Bruins are in the playoffs,
right.
and
well, there are, days between games.
Yeah, and I have to listen to sports talk radio breaking down the games.
Or they'll lose.
Well, and on those days, maybe I will because I everything's been put on hold. I haven't watched an episode and since the little guy went in the hospital. That was 2 weeks ago today.
Yeah.
Of The Good Place, which
I started watching that.
How far are you in?
Episode 2.
Okay, all right.
Season 1.
All right. I
yeah, I know. There's so much you want to tell me about it and talk about.
Yeah, it's like. Anyway, so
that's another show that you have to watch episode to episode because of the progression of the characters.
Right,
yeah.
right. It's not an out of context thing.
Yeah, it's not like you can't just pop in and like where's the gang this week?
You know what everyone is talking about, which is surprising. It's like
pop music.
Everybody. I have, and you mentioned it earlier, Game of Thrones. I truly zero, and I think
none.
I had no interest, and like, who's the actor who I really love in it? Peter
Dinklage.
I mean, that guy's awesome. He's been in so many things that I really, really like. Always plays a great character. I like Epic
Pixels.
He was great in Pixels.
He was. Anyways.
He was
an elf, yeah.
He was in Station Agent was a small, probably $2-3 million movie that if you ever get a chance, if it's on Hulu, Amazon, or one of the things you have, it's well worth the watch. It's a great movie. But he's in it. Anyways, dragons, epic battle scenes. You would think I'd be somewhat interested in it, but and then
well, you don't have HBO.
Yeah, but it's on everything else. You can find it everywhere. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I think it's either on Netflix or on Amazon.
It's HBO only.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure because HBO has their own streaming service called HBO Go for subscribers.
Because I remember
HBO Now.
Management was saying, yeah, maybe we should watch it and get caught up. But
I think you might be able to buy it on Apple TV.
Maybe that's what she was talking about doing. But and now I'll be honest, it's like somebody was talking about, how many guys do you think are going to get castrated this season? I'm like, yeah, okay.
It's uber violent.
Which I'm okay with.
And it's one of those things where you have to keep track of 500 names, and it's like it's like Lord of the Rings ish in that respect. And I don't know. I checked out, and then it's colloquially it's referred to as tits and dragons if you don't know Game of Thrones. But it's basic. I mean, there are a lot of sex scenes, a lot of like rape scenes,
and a lot of incest, I guess.
Yes,
and so that's what there was one guy. I was listening to sports radio, and they segued into this, and one guy's really into it, and one guy's like, his girlfriend watches it, so he's seen it, and he's like, yeah. Every time I'm like, wait a minute, aren't those brother and sister? Yeah, okay, but they castrated this other guy. Yeah, okay, I'm good. Take out the incest, the rape, and
Mr. Star Wars over here. All right, take out the
one kiss, one kiss, and they didn't know. They didn't know they were related.
Right?
I mean, and let's face it, she would have assumed kissed a Wookiee. But anyways, it's one of those big blockbuster TV things. Now, I felt that way again about Battlestar Galactica. Then I watched it and I was like, wow, but
it's not the same thing.
No castrations.
Yes, it's a little bit more palatable to the masses. My wife watches Game of Thrones, and so she's all into it. She likes fantasy and all that shit. But I think it's not my bag, baby. Cobra Kai. Let's talk more. Did I mention?
Yeah, I think you sold me. After the Bruins win the cup and we go to the third victory parade in the city of Boston, which is funny because I think I don't know if I tweeted out, but I texted a few friends of mine because a buddy of mine, in LA, is a big hockey guy. He's like, I think I'm going to jump on the bandwagon. I'm like, hey, there's room. And I tweeted, I either tweeted out or I just texted to a bunch of people. I wonder if the city of Boston can apply for federal aid relief if we have to pay for a third parade this year. And then I'm like, hey, why does everyone hate us? And my buddy copied and pasted my original text and sent it back to me. He goes, this is why. Like, okay, well played. So that's what I'm watching. The Bruins, Endgame, Shazam. I don't have time for anything else.
Good. What's your parenting tip, please? I need a tip to parent.
Be honest with them. Like, in a situation where you want to go see Avengers Endgame and don't want them to be yapping through the whole thing, just tell them, it's like, look, I love you, but not enough to take you to the most important movie I'm going to see in my life before the next Star Wars one comes out. So I'll take you some other time, or your mom can take you again. But I'm going to be honest with you because, that's what we preach. You're too fucking annoying to be around when it's really important. That's my parenting tip. Just be honest with them.
All right. Take that with a grain of salt. So, great.
You're parenting.
I'm editing this part out. So what a wonderful podcast we've had. I think we've gone, 3 hours? I think we're just under the Endgame runtime for this podcast. I hope you had fun out there in podcast land. I know we did. So
if you have half as much fun listening,
then I had twice as much fun telling you whatever. Anyways, who gives a fuck what I have to say? Jacques, remember to tune in to this Thursday's sideshow with this exciting conclusion. You want to hear more talk about Vegas and Atlantic City and blackjack and waterboarding, I think, might be involved. I don't know. There was some crazy tactics with this blackjack team back in the 80s, but John was a magnificent guest. Who knew that a CEO of a company could talk so good and so long? And and it was fantastic. So listen to that. Check out the first part if you haven't already, and listen to part 2 on Thursday. I'm going to start going Thursday and Monday.
I will say one of the interesting things about John coming over, he could not wrap his head around why we do this podcast.
Right. It's like, so you do this and don't seek a profit or end game or a money making. No, we're just idiots that like to hear the sound of Jacques' voice.
But he kept circling back to it. He truly could not wrap his head around having a hobby that just involves, my buddy likes doing this. I like doing that. Boys upstairs doing piano, gives us an excuse to hang out. It's like, and I told him, it's like somebody's meet up with their pals and go drinking once a week. This is our thing. Yeah,
they're both destructive.
But at the end of the day, what's your 5-year plan for this? It's like, my 5-year plan is to still be doing the exact same thing. Joe's 5-year plan is to have been retired for 4 years and 11 months.
Yes.
That's his 5-year plan.
Oh, my God. Please. I wish I had the fucking Infinity Gauntlet so I could just snap myself out of here. Anyway, maybe I'll do that right now. So, Jacques and all of you listening out there, don't forget,
standing there right beside you, people you've met before. The youngest one is from high school, but he don't know you no more. Can't be sure, just wait and see. Remember when you're wondering, you've already been the best you'll ever be. Something who's hungry, impressive and lean. 30-something who's longing for you were in your teens. Can't be sure, just wait and see. Remember when you're wondering, you've already been the best you'll ever be. sure. Just wait and see. Remember when she's wondering if already the best you'll ever be. Standing there right beside you, looking listless and bored, just a bit disappointed. The people you've met before can't be sure, just wait and see. Remember when she's wondering if already been the best you'll ever be. Can't be sure, just wait and see. Remember when she's wondering if already been the best you'll ever be.
Just about to.